So how did you, as like, self-proclaimed almost incel at one point in your life?
Fuck you lah, okay? Okay, I wasn't that chalak.
Okay. We can both agree that we were not at the top of the pile.
Correct, yeah, not at the top.
We
of
were
the
not
pile.
the guys who were dating the prom queens on the internet,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely
Nowhere near.
not.
Even
Yeah.
just smelling the perfume was like as close as I got.
Okay, now
to
don't
it.
sound like a creep, lah, okay?
creepy. But somewhere in your late 20s and early 30s, you also at the same time became like Singapore's maybe number one pickup artist. Right. Officially, it's on record. We have video evidence.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
So what's new, man? How was the weekend?
The weekend was good.
Ah.
But there are dark storm clouds gathering around Singapore right now. Right.
Today or Monday afternoon, 17th February.
Quite literally, right? But yeah, weekend was good. Yeah. How about you?
Weekend was good, recovering from the trip. I think like everything you have said before about traveling with a kid and realizing that traveling with a kid is just taking care of a kid in another country.
Yeah.
Is exactly that.
That's such a cynical way to think about things, Harsh.
Yo, man, it was tiring as fuck. Like, holy shit, man. Like, I'm still very happy that we managed to go to Saudi Arabia as a family.
Yeah.
But it was tough. But
the first trip is always really tough.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, the flights were okay. It was just, I think, because my wife went on a work trip and I also was thinking, okay, I can do some work while I was there. But I think that expectation was a bit misguided.
Yeah.
Misguided.
Yeah.
But I mean, you learn.
It's okay, you got time to go and watch Ronaldo.
Oh yeah, I
Can't
did.
complain much.
So the trip started off on a high, watch Ronaldo. But the moment we both had like work, she definitely had work to attend to.
Yeah.
Then I was tasked with like being, one-on-one with the kid.
Yeah.
Certain things along the way also didn't help. Just like things like the sterilizing tablet had like a fucking bleach smell. And then my kid was rejecting the bottle.
Yeah.
And then dealing with all that.
Yeah.
But came back in one piece, so okay lah.
Fatherhood.
Fatherhood, man.
I our last episode of the podcast was an episode, the Trishaw episode, where we talked about fatherhood,
correct.
right? So literally, a lot of the struggles that you face in Saudi Arabia were struggles that we discussed in that episode.
Yeah, correct.
And the heartening thing is, I think the last time we talked about, is there anybody who wants to listen to us talking about being dads and all that? I think there were a few responses on social media that said that, hey, yeah, we would love to hear you guys talk about being dads, the dad experience.
Yeah, because I've found it useful to read accounts of other dads and even talking to other dads. As preachy as you are, talking to you is helpful.
As preachy as I am.
As preachy as you are, as preachy and as condescending as you are, it is helpful because it sets the expectations that sometimes whatever you feel as a dad is normal. It's normal. And I think that is very important.
Yeah. It's a bit like one of the topics we're talking about later.
Yeah,
where, groups of people live in echo chambers and drag each other down the rabbit hole. Right?
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So, we will be talking about that. We'll be talking about the dark clouds. And there's a lot to talk about. But before that, we have an announcement, Terrence.
Yeah. An exciting announcement, of the very exciting thing that happened in December for us. What is this announcement?
It is the second live show that we're going to be doing in March. For those of you who are new to the podcast, or who have been listening for a while but didn't get a chance to get tickets for our December show, which sold out pretty fast, which was great.
Yeah.
We are going to be having another live show, and it's going to be happening on Thursday, 6 March at night. And we will be releasing the ticket sale maybe in the coming week. Don't know when yet. And we've got certain feedback that last time, releasing it at 3 p.m. was a bit hard because people at work, they had to a bit distracting.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do it maybe at night or something one of these days. But yeah, it's happening. If you couldn't get tickets before, remember to set your alarms because the tickets hopefully sell out fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be exciting because it's going to be a few days after the February Parliament sitting.
Okay. Yeah. There'll always be something to
March
talk
Parliament
about.
sitting.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting and we will share more details. But yeah, it's going to be exciting.
This week is a big week as well, right? With the news today, then tomorrow is the budget they're talking about the budget in Parliament.
That's true.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about in the coming couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But today, I mean, you can't run away from this big headline. Right?
Yeah. In fact, we were supposed to record earlier, but we were like, you know what? There were certain results that were coming out at certain times.
Yeah.
And we will jump into it. But remember to follow us on social media.
Yes, correct. That's right. We forgot to say that.
Yeah.
Remember to follow us on all our social medias. Like, share, follow this podcast, right? Wherever you're listening to it. Because, there's a lot of stuff coming up sooner. Right?
Yeah. And if you want to work with us, drop us a message. You can visit us at ministryoffunny.com or reach out at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Now,
let's jump to the meat of it. Right?
The fresh off the press. Literally, we are getting updates by the minute.
Yeah.
And it is the news or the verdict or the latest verdict on the Pritam Singh trial. That, I mean, the trial happened a couple of months ago. Yep. And we did go to watch it at the state courts, at least one of the days. And we did cover it before, but now the verdict is out. And I think there was news yesterday that the verdict will be out today, right?
No, we knew already that February 17th.
Correct. Yesterday was just a reminder.
Yeah.
And I mean, this morning, I think there was a 2-hour summary read by the judge. And then they broke at about 12 plus p.m. and they reconvened at 3:20 p.m. to announce the verdict.
The sentence.
Yeah, the sentence. Yep. Which is that Pritam Singh has been handed the maximum fine of $7,000 on each charge of lying to Parliament. So to recap, I mean, he was facing a trial for 2 charges for lying in to the COP that his trial was about. And this news is hot off the press.
Yeah, correct.
So before we dive into it, like what were you expecting ahead of today and what are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts? I mean, this is one of the most hotly watched trials, right, in Singapore history. I think, as far as I know, that this is like the first time anyone has been convicted under the parliamentary privileges
act,
right? Yeah. But basically, it's a big deal. It sets a real precedent for MPs' behavior in front of, let's say, the Committee of Privileges, right? And we went to the trial and we had thoughts about it, and we had shared it in the previous podcast. But to be perfectly frank also, towards the end of the 13 days of trial, I also maybe switched off a little bit, right? I felt like I felt almost like I was being caught in a very he say she say kind of back and forth between the Raisa Khan's side and Pritam Singh's side, right? And I kind of like, after a while, I just lost track of what was, I lost interest in what was happening. So everyone was just, and then I think they even finished the trial early, right? Yeah. There wasn't a lot more to discuss. And I think we were just looking forward to this February 17th date to see what would happen.
Yeah. And I mean, to recap, right, what he was being charged with, which he was eventually charged with, is falsely testifying that at the end of his meeting with Raisa Khan and Sylvia Lim and Faisal Manap on August 8th, that he wanted Miss Khan, Raisa Khan, to clarify at some point in Parliament that what she had said about accompanying a rape victim to police was untrue. So basically, at the end of the meeting, he said that he wanted Raisa to clarify in Parliament that it was a lie. And then the second thing is that he falsely testified that when he spoke to Raisa Khan on October 3rd, 2021, he wanted to convey to her that if the issue came up in Parliament the next day, she had to clarify that her story was a lie. So essentially those two things that, according to Pritam, he wanted Raisa Khan to do. But according to the judge, said no those two are false.
Correct. Yeah. So what were your thoughts when you read this, at least the headlines of this verdict and all?
I mean, because we were keeping track as like the news was coming out, and then while there was that break for the final sentencing, reading the judge. I know there's probably going to be a lot of chatter over these next few days, but I did find it surprising that there were many things that seem like, wow, these are pretty broad statements.
By who?
Like the judge lah.
Okay.
The judgment. And I mean, it and I'm just cautioning myself because there's a lot of literature and a lot of documentation behind all this.
Yeah.
So there might be very good reasons to justify that. But I'm just saying from my own memory, and what we're reading in the news and the articles, right? Because I remember when we were there at State Court also, the fucking booklet,
The file.
the file of stuff they had to look through was immense,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, just like certain things that I'm reading off an article, a very important piece of evidence that Judge Tan gave full weight to was a WhatsApp message sent by Ms. Khan to a group chat with former WP cadres, Loh Pei and Yudhishthra Nathan. And I think there was a rejection of Pritam Singh's defense lawyers to claim that the circumstances around the message were suspect and basically that she was not a credible witness and I think the judge, very emphatically said that there was no reason to suggest that Raisa would lie about one aspect of the discussion but tell the truth about the other aspect. And that she was a credible witness And I felt like, okay. I mean, I can understand the logic. But from what I remember reading, from what I remember watching the State Court, if I were to read just this, right, it paints a very different picture
Of
how much truth that you can assume to be in Raisa Khan's account. So, I mean, of course, I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer, but along the whole process, it felt like there were many things that she said that, I mean, she lied in Parliament, right? And in the COP, I do remember even like with the cadres, some parts that came out that I was like, and not saying that Pritam didn't seem like he did anything wrong. There were things he did wrong. But this one felt super against Pritam.
Okay.
So that was my initial thought.
Okay.
Of course, there's a lot to unpack. That was one thought.
But I mean, okay, I think like one point I want to make is that my experience probably is a microcosm of a lot of people's experiences with this, right? Where initially like, oh, this is something quite interesting, quite exciting to follow. But over time, everyone just sort of like, sort of lost in the weeds, right? About the back and forth between Pritam Singh's side and Raisa Khan's testimony and all these things, right? But at the end of the day, when you open up, international publications like the BBC, Pritam Singh, Singapore opposition leader, guilty of lying to Parliament. You go to the Times of India, Singapore, Indian origin opposition leader found guilty of giving false testimony. Right, that's the headlines. And how many people are like you and me are going to bother to read Pritam Singh's statement? Are going to bother to read the defense submission? Which you can go on the leader or opposition website and read the full defense submission and everything, right?
It's more than 100 pages.
Or even to read the judge's decision and try to follow the timeline of everything he's saying, right? At the end of the day, the headline is the loudest thing, that he has been found guilty of lying, right? And I think ultimately, anyone with any kind of like slight interest in this case, this is the most important thing, the most important detail to them, that he is found guilty of lying, right? So that's the thing for me that like you said that certain parts of the case maybe like seem like leaps, quite big leaps for you, right? In terms of assuming whether he lied and everything, right? But the bottom line is that he's been found guilty of lying, and that is going to be public record, in the news and everything from here on out.
Right. And I mean, even the headlines, you look, BBC, Pritam Singh, Singapore opposition leader guilty of lying to Parliament. But he's guilty of lying to the Committee of Privileges, which is a parliamentary committee. And it feels like there's a different weight when you say lying to Parliament. And that's where I felt like, oh shit, that's also like what you say, like it's painting this one image, which feels like there's a lot more to unpack.
But so exactly correct. The nuances might be lost on, people who are not looking at the details, right? Or do they even matter, like these nuances, right? But it's not a good look, for sure, for Pritam Singh as he goes into the general election, which, I mean, as of minutes ago, he has reaffirmed his commitment to run for general election. And the election department has also come forward and said that it will not affect his, either the $10,000, because I think if you're fined more than $10,000 on a single charge, you're disqualified for running for elections.
Or jailed a certain amount of time.
Yeah. But in this case, no jail time, and his fine for each charge was $7,000. So it seems like he's still eligible to run for elections.
Yeah.
But just not a good look, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like what we said, even on Pritam's Facebook page, he posted like a TLDR of his appeal also. And he put links to the leaders of opposition website. And the appeal document is pretty damn long. So I mean, we can be sure that his appeal will go on. But I don't know, reading this, right, it just fills me with a bit of like, I kind of like, wow, was I remembering it wrongly? Am I being like gaslit because the facts are everything against like what I thought the outcome would be? Because I think we were very clear even when we covered the COP and the trial. Pritam did do certain things that you look at it, you're like, hey, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know, even as a lay person, you read it, you're like, you could have done better. You could have done something that would almost lead to less issues.
Yeah.
So he didn't perform perfectly.
Yeah.
But this one feels like it makes me think of a different sequence of events.
I mean, the most generous interpretation of what Pritam Singh did is that maybe he cared too much about whether it's protecting, Raisa Khan's reputation or her, the fact that she was a victim of sexual abuse and everything, right? Maybe he cared a bit too much about that and led to certain decisions he made that maybe compromised his or his party's position, right? In his standing. That's the most generous interpretation that you can make of it, right?
Yeah.
But I agree. This verdict kind of paints it as it's a much less generous verdict, right? That really paints it like almost that he was quite knowingly lying to the Committee of Privileges.
Yeah. And so, I mean, at the end of this, you read, of course, comments, like if you go on Reddit, there's a lot of sentiments saying, okay, this feels a bit icky. And I don't know. So that's where now it's going to be interesting, right? How would people react to this?
Yeah.
I think you can assume that, let's say if he was not allowed to run for election because the penalty exceeded 10K for more than one charge, it might have the effect of rallying people who, again, they don't look at the nitty-gritties, but they're like, this guy has been unfairly fixed.
Yeah.
Let's vote for him.
Yeah.
I think politically, that's not the smartest thing to do as the incumbent.
Yeah.
But on this side, I'm guessing there will be some people who will be like, see, that's why we cannot vote opposition. Even the leader of opposition is a liar.
Yeah.
But there'll also be some people who are like, this is unfair. You know what? It has strengthened their resolve to vote opposition.
Yeah. I over the weekend I was at a big dinner and I met people who literally gave me that line that it's not that I want to vote for the incumbent or anything. It's just that the opposition all cannot make it .
You mean ahead of this outcome?
Not even reference to this outcome. Just in general, just saying about the likelihood for who they're going to vote for.
Yeah.
And just a general sense that opposition cannot make it. This headline here kind of reinforces that kind of belief, right?
So just to clarify, you were at a wedding dinner and you were talking about these kind of topics.
Hey, politics is the talk of the day.
But you brought it up,
No, I didn't bring it up.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, I told you before, right? Like in this Trump era, Trump 2.0 era,
you rather not bring up.
I actually don't like to bring up politics anymore because I get this sense that there's a lot more people who feel very strongly about certain opinions in politics, and they are very emboldened to talk about it in a very authoritative way now. Won't say which side, obviously, right? But it just strikes me as, quite surprising that people that you would think have a bit more, they put a bit more thought behind some of these things. Suddenly trumpeting a lot of what they hear or read about on, social media.
So was that the situation at a wedding dinner? Where there's like, a shark's fin soup flying over the table?
No shark fin soup, but there was a situation where people didn't get angry, but you can draw very clear lines about who supports who and all.
And you didn't know everyone at the table beforehand.
Not everyone. Yeah.
So the fact that you all had a political discussion at a table where not everyone knew everyone else.
But it was amicable, right? I think it's okay to talk about some of these things, But anyway, my point is that talking about politics has just could stir up emotions very easily today. So I've sort of pulled back from talking about politics so much again.
Yeah. I mean, this one, I think, in the broader context of everything, when you read this, I mean, the Electoral Boundaries Review Committee has already been convened.
Yes.
So everyone knows that the elections are on the cards.
Yeah.
And I know what you're going to say, that, everything ties back to the election. But you can't help but think,
Wait, why do you think I'll say that?
You always say that, right? You always say that, everything is about race, everything about elections.
No. This is, I was going to say that this is the judiciary branch, right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily tied to the elections or anything.
I mean, okay, on paper lah. On paper, but in people's minds,
it's meant to be independent, right?
No, it's meant to be independent, yes. But you look at it, I mean, that's why there is very clear mentions, even by Pritam himself, that he is going to run.
Yeah.
And I mean, in all the articles, there was talk about whether he will be able to run, whether he'll not be able to run. Yes, they are two separate and they're meant to be impartial.
Yeah.
But it does feel like, this might have a consequence.
But that's why I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said earlier, right? About your basically the things that you've heard and read about Raisa Khan and all these things.
Yeah.
Whether all that should be taken into account in this case, right? Because one could argue that the judge is really looking at what Pritam Singh said at the Committee of Privileges, right? And whether the trustworthiness of Raisa Khan, in her account of things and all that, whether she lied before, or the fact that she lied to Shanmugam and things like that, right? Should all that be taken into account when this case is really about Pritam Singh's conduct in front of the Committee of Privileges, right? It will be. I mean, you think about what the judge is trying to do is maybe narrow down the scope of what he's supposed to look at to just how Raisa Khan conducted herself in court for this trial, how the witnesses conducted themselves in court for this trial, and their statements to the police and all that. But all the stuff before that, maybe he really doesn't have the purview to consider that as evidence. I'm saying that. What I'm trying to put out there is that, maybe some people might be very upset with this verdict and things like that. But if you really think about what the judge's job is, his scope is
the trial,
and can be narrowed down to just certain interactions. And maybe in his understanding, or him watching Raisa Khan on trial in court, not on trial, Raisa Khan as a witness in court, he came to a different interpretation of her trustworthiness compared to how we, as bystanders, as people reading Reddit or whatever, have generally thought about Raisa Khan.
True lah. In some sense, what you're saying, you must separate the past from what the parameters of this judgment is about lah.
Yeah.
Yes, true. And I mean, there is the danger of muddling things lah. I mean, even day-to-day life, right? Just because someone fucks up one time, but in a totally different context, should you just base what you think of them on that interaction alone? Or have the thing at the back of your head? I would say in real life, you actually have the thing at the back of your head. You have the thing at the back of your head lah. So in this case, yes, I mean, for the judge, I can understand it is what is said during the trial, and that trumps everything that's said before lah. So maybe it's a difference between what was in the trial and what the emotional side of things is.
Court of public opinion versus the court of law, right?
He's
got a very narrow purview in some sense, right? He needs to just identify if Pritam Singh lied to the Committee of Privileges or, stretch the truth to the Committee of Privileges and all that, right? And as I said in my what I thought as a generous interpretation of what Pritam Singh did, there are things I would do differently if I was the leader of opposition from him, right? There are things I would be more direct and forceful about if I was the leader of opposition. But I'm not the leader of opposition. So there are maybe considerations that Pritam Singh had that we don't even know about, right? About why he did certain things and all that. So it's when you look at the court of public opinion, I think one thing we have to remember is the judge in the court of law is they're also operating with different parameters, right? So we can get very emotional about this, but it is what it is, and the headline is the most important thing that came out of this.
Yeah. I mean, because if anyone's been keeping track of this, you may have watched the whole thing from the lie in Parliament to the Committee of Privileges, the 9-hour grilling of Pritam, and the additional grilling of Sylvia and Faisal Manap and Raisa Khan. And then this trial. Maybe there is some truth to that, which is why I'm curious to see what happens after the appeal. Because if you look at Pritam's statement, there's a lot of conviction behind him saying that, that there's a lot of things that are incorrect, or he feels very strongly against in the judgment. I mean, for example, there was, I think, basically he was being put on trial for the two things, right? Which is claiming that he wanted Raisa Khan to clarify her lie in Parliament at some point, for telling the COP that he advised Raisa Khan to come clean in Parliament, both of which have been found to be lies. But in his statement, he mentioned that there was an email he sent after meeting the Faisal Manap, Sylvia. There was an email he sent to the WP team to talk about the dangers of lying in Parliament, and that made a case for how wrong it is. And that was not really spoken about in the judgment. So when you look at that, you're like, okay. Of course, in the judgment, what I think the judge or these articles also said is that his team didn't invite Sylvia Lim and Faisal Manap to be witnesses in court because there was some discrepancy between their accounts and Pritam.
Who said that?
I think it's in one of the articles. Let me find it.
No, I believe the COP established that there was discrepancies, right?
Yeah.
But I did want to say your earlier point about that the court didn't bring up about his email. I think they did though. I think they said that it was not a clear statement.
Not a clear statement.
It was not a clear statement that Raisa Khan needed to clarify the lie. Right? The court, I think, essentially said, I'm paraphrasing here, essentially the court was saying that it was more like it could be seen as just a general email to remind the Workers' Party members about not lying in court, but not necessarily an outright instruction for Raisa Khan to clarify her lie.
Yeah. True.
So, I mean, we think about the broader context of the world today, right? Where last time, we had to care a lot more about people's feelings, right? Whereas now today, it's about bringing masculine energy back to the corporate world and, it's all about efficiency and everything. Do you think Pritam Singh's management style would need to change just based on everything that you've read about this trial and how he conducted himself with his team and all that?
It's a bit weird, right? Because maybe 15 years ago, the management style would be, don't care about feelings, I want to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Then it evolved to be more, making sure people are aligned on purpose, empowering them to make their own decisions, which just seems like what Pritam did. But now, I don't think it will need to change just yet, because the change that we are seeing now, I mean, with clear reference to the US, feels like it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way also.
Yeah, correct.
The move fast, break things, all about efficiency. Don't really care about the softer side of things.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it'll be too fast a change.
But I think not long ago he had a statement where he I think a message to his own Workers' Party recently, right? Where he I think he was more forceful in saying that you need to paraphrasing again, that you need to kind of toe the party line because this is what brought you to your position. Never forget that the party, everyone in the party, that's what brought you here. And it's not about you individually, it's about the party as a whole. Which I think we talked about it on this podcast where it's a much more forceful message from him. Maybe that's his reaction to what's going on in this with this whole Raisa Khan thing already. That you kind of just need to state in black and white that, we can't tolerate bullshit anymore.
True lah. But I mean, even if you want to take the empowering approach, right?
Yeah.
His approach with Raisa Khan got a lot of mistakes. I think.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't discount that empowering approach just yet.
Oh, so you're saying that even trying to be empowering to her,
there were things which she didn't do well. You look back, you're like, okay, if it's taking this long for the clarity to come through, maybe you just need to be a bit more explicit.
Yeah.
And of course, as leader of opposition, you are swamped like crazy. But these kind of things, given how sensitive it could be, you cannot deprioritize it. I mean, it happens in life, right? Even with your own kids, sometimes you're like, oh shit, I should have done it. You didn't. But this just spiraled into a mess. And go back to my previous point, I said this is something on the CNA article. Judge Tan wrapped the defense for extensive and liberal references to what Ms. Lim and Mr. Faisal Manap said during the COP hearings, noting that these could not be admitted in court since neither were called as witnesses in the trial. So basically, in some way saying that, you can't bank on what they said during the COP because like what you said, not being part of the trial removes it from all his judgment. And that's where it also made me think, actually, how come they were not called as witnesses? Given that there were a lot of meetings that Pritam had, they were part of the disciplinary committee that was convened to talk about what Raisa Khan should do. Felt a bit odd. So this whole case is just one big mess.
I mean, I can't speak to the defense strategy, right? Why they didn't call certain witnesses and all. But maybe there was a sense that that the best approach was to sort of discredit like the witnesses. I think they spent a lot of time talking about how Raisa Khan is not a trustworthy or reliable or credible witness, right? As with Ms. Loh Pei and Mr. Nathan also, right? So maybe there was, if they were doubling down on their strategy, rather than, having to reopen the whole, whatever Sylvia Lim or Faisal Manap was saying and all, right? So they could be part of the strategy, or, cynically, they could just be thinking that, what's the point, right, of dragging it out further by dragging more of the senior cadre.
It's almost one person take the hit. And I mean,
be done with it, right?
In some ways, Sylvia Lim and Faisal Manap, they haven't been tainted as much.
And they didn't have to be put on trial. They didn't have to come on as witnesses and be cross-examined and all that, right? So, I mean, I kind of get where he's coming from. But I must say, right, today was quite he's dressed a bit differently from how the other times that he appeared in Parliament. Today was much more, he was in his Workers' Party, uniform, right? The short sleeve, blue shirt and everything. And he was, I think, quite a couple of members also came by, same thing, wearing the blue shirt and all. A stronger sense of solidarity this time, right?
Between him and his
Workers' Party people who came by.
But I mean, solidarity aside, do you think, let's say you are his PR or stylist? I'm not saying he has a stylist, but his PR person. And he says, Terence, what should I wear to court today? Should I wear my suit or should I wear the Workers' Party blue?
But PR is like the party PR, right? I think in this sense, depends on what you're expecting as the verdict, right? If the idea of that after the verdict you still want to appeal and assert your disagreement with the verdict, then maybe you need to have a stronger show of solidarity between you and the party, right? To show that the party believes that this is he is still the right man to lead the party in the
That's
right
what you would tell him as the party PR consultant.
I think there needs to be a show of strength from the party. This is something, it's a setback for the party, but it doesn't mean that it's not the end of the world. And you still need to show that is BAU after that, business as usual, right? And so in that sense, I found it quite interesting, the choice that he decided to dress like that for this.
Wow, such a textbook diplomatic answer.
Why? What's your answer?
So for me, I would say that the verdict is not going to be in your favor. The sentencing is not going to be in your favor. There are going to be a lot of people who might be unhappy with this.
Yes.
So if you wear your party uniform, there will be a segment of the population that feel, oh, this opposition member is being vilified unfairly. And it's almost putting it out there that this is someone from the opposition getting this amount of sentence.
Yeah.
And almost to kind of like stir up like it's unfair. Because if he wore a suit, right? It's almost that okay, he's an individual.
Okay.
But in a blue, right, he's the leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
And you know that rhetoric that they're always fighting against the odds. I think getting a sentence in your opposition uniform kind of like reinforces that that the odds are stacked against you
Yeah. I can see that. See that.
So that'll be the more how you say guerrilla or like what's the word? Just more shit. I'm looking for a mercenary approach
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to add on my earlier point, right? I think it was when the last time Pritam Singh, when I talked about his leadership style, I think he warned of opposition wipeout, right?
Yeah.
And then in that same statement, he talked about the unity as the cornerstone of Workers' Party success, that victories were collective achievements involving not only candidates, but also volunteers and grassroots workers. So, to candidates, we need you not only a commitment to being a servant leader. We need from you not only a commitment to being a servant leader, but also big amounts of humility and self-awareness. Yeah. So I think that was a very clear shot fired, right? That it's not about you, right? It's not about you as like a special candidate who that you are here because you're a special person and all that. And you need to toe the party line.
And then, today is February 17th. Tomorrow, he will have to go to Parliament and debate the budget.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, the budget, I don't know whether it's going to be debated tomorrow. I think it's going to be presented.
Presented. Yeah.
Wow, but can you imagine you just gonna sentence, then you go to Parliament and face everyone?
But that was the thing, right? The first day of the trial, we were there.
Oh, yeah.
He and his team, like, they popped over to Parliament for like during the couple hours break that they had for lunch, right?
Yeah.
They popped and showed up in Parliament, and then after that went back to trial again, right?
That's like something you would do during Chinese New Year. Hey, Terence, I popped by your place for a while. But this one, he went from trial to Parliament and back to trial.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that I think there's an understanding that the public is watching, right?
Yeah.
And like what I said, you need to show, regardless of what the verdict is, regardless of what I'm going through in this trial, it's business as usual, going to Parliament, talking, speaking up for Singaporeans and things like that. So I get where the PR might be coming from in terms of like getting them to look like they are almost like they're wearing like what they usually wear when they walk the ground as Workers' Party people.
Yeah, which I don't think, did they wear that for the state?
No, they didn't.
Trial?
The trial they were wearing
the other party members as well.
I think maybe they wore the same colors, but I'm watching what Pritam Singh is wearing, right? Where it seems like much more like, you caught him in the middle of a walkabout or something.
Correct. Yeah. But at least no one fell on the steps today.
Yeah.
No one fell on the steps.
That's right.
But yeah, this is definitely going to be a developing case.
Yeah.
Probably next few days, next few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know what the timeline would be for the appeal. But yeah, given that the Electoral Boundaries Review Committee has been convened, feels like it's just going to be in parallel.
Yeah, everything is sort of like coming together. Right?
Coming together. Shacks, yeah. But yeah, man.
But yeah, so that's what's happening in Parliament with and why we talk about dark clouds gathering. But on the online space as well, there are dark clouds gathering a certain subreddit, right? And it all stemmed from this one article that seems to have put this subreddit under the spotlight. And what is this article about?
This article is an article on the Straits Times that is titled "Involuntarily Celibate: Inside the Minds of Incels Who Blame Women and Society." So, I mean, if you're listening and have never heard the term before, it's actually been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I think we have come across it as part of research for shows that we have made in the past. But it started getting more and more mainstream attention because it had a very dark side of it. Basically, it is this movement of men who are involuntarily celibate, which means they're not getting like romantic relationships or sexual relationships from women.
Yeah.
And they that there's a lot of blaming of women and the system for making them celibate not by their choice.
Yeah.
Hence the term.
Yeah.
And this article, the journalists managed to get in touch with self-proclaimed incels from Singapore.
Yeah.
Or ex-incels, and just got their perspectives on things. So I mean, for example, there was this one person in the article that was kind of he didn't use his real name. He works in the education sector. Says he identifies as an incel more because of his resignation towards his place in life rather than the community's hatred of women.
Yeah.
And this next statement kind of sums up a lot of the sentiment. My financial situation is involuntary. My looks are involuntary. And societal expectations are also imposed upon me.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a choice in this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the beliefs of the whole incel movement.
Yeah.
But why do you say that it's causing a lot of chatter in that subreddit?
So I when I read this article, I thought, okay, it's quite interesting that Straits Times is writing about this incel thing, right? Because we've heard about it a lot in the US media. There have been terrorist attacks from self-proclaimed incels, in the US or I think Canada as well. But in Singapore, no one has really looked at it as a phenomenon.
Yeah.
So I mean, the journalist also talks about how high-profile social media personalities like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and even Joe Rogan have gathered followings of millions by appealing to men who feel ignored or disenfranchised by mainstream culture, right? And they also bring up that, in Singapore, it's really more on the online communities like Reddit forum, Singapore Raw, and Hardware Zone, right? They play host to rants that occur in the manosphere. And the third thing that I think a lot is quite contentious is that they say that the ones in Singapore tend to be complaining about how national service favors women while disadvantaging men, taking their best years, and that women today are the privileged gender thanks to the Women's Charter, right? So there are a lot of things to unpack there. But when you read this article, right, what about it resonated with you that you felt something to talk about? Right?
The values and the movement doesn't resonate with me.
Okay.
But I think it's one of those that movements that I've been aware of for a long while.
Yeah.
And you almost see it rise in presence across the world. I think most recently, something that went viral was after Trump got elected and had very strong thoughts against abortion. And there was one tweet by this American far-right activist that stated, "Your body, my choice forever." And he identifies as an incel. It had more than 90 million views and was reposted over 35,000 times.
Yeah.
Which is a very scary tweet. So the reason why I thought this is important to talk about is because it is a movement that is there.
Yeah.
It is a movement that is here in Singapore.
Yeah.
We can't shy away from it, and it's important to understand what led to that. But also, I know one thing that was on Reddit that pissed off a lot of people, including, I also feel it's a bit unfair, that parking, that feeling that, NS takes away the prime years of a man's life is only for an incel sentiment.
Yeah. So, that plus, parking like Andrew Tate followers with Jordan Peterson followers with Joe Rogan listeners. Because we listen to a bit of Joe Rogan, right?
And Jordan Peterson, some things he says makes a lot of sense.
He talks about a lot of things. He's at the end of the day, he's a psychology professor.
Yeah.
Right, who has his things. Andrew Tate, okay, I get it, right? But basically quite a number of blanket statements. And even, I think, to be fair also to even the Singapore Raw subreddit, right? To paint that in the same way as you do Hardware Zone forum, right? I think the Singapore Raw subreddit, I do follow it and read the stuff on it time to time. It's not all about like incel kind of stuff, right? A lot of it's they talk a lot about politics, but they also talk about other things happening in Singapore, and much more. I would say much more non-politically correct compared to the stuff you see on the Singapore subreddit, right?
Yeah.
So quite sweeping generalizations that sort of put people under this incel umbrella. Like the moment you use one of these subreddits or the moment you listen to Joe Rogan, you incel, you know?
Yeah, they literally said individuals like Joe Rogan have gathered followings of millions by appealing to men who feel ignored or disenfranchised by mainstream culture.
Yeah.
Terrence, you feel ignored and disenfranchised?
No, yeah, that's why I think it is it's a bit of there's no nuance in that, right? It just sort of puts these people together. Of course, you can have your thoughts about how Joe Rogan has evolved in the last few years, but there was a time when people listened to Joe Rogan because he seemed to be this very liberal, progressive, person who was open to listening to a lot of people's different opinions as well, right?
Yeah.
And, I think his tack has changed over time, but that doesn't mean that the people who listened to him then are now all incels, right? You know, because he supports Trump or what, right?
I mean, which is a pity because the second half of the article, where they actually show sentiments or talk about sentiments expressed by real life incels, is actually quite eye-opening.
It is.
And it's almost like the blanket statements at the start disregard the journalistic work that is apparent in the second. And I mean, I think it's also important to kind of talk about how, the incel movement, while it's very dark and has some messed up sentiments, you can almost understand why men might gravitate towards it. And I'm speaking from my own experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, before I became the modern day Casanova that I am now, my dating life was bleak at times. And there was, the internet was already there. And I found myself kind of like Googling stuff like, hey, how to get dates, how to blah, blah, blah. And the main thing that popped up that was counterculture at that point in time was the pickup community. Which was all about, how you should nag people, which is where you compliment, but backhandedly put them down and stuff. And it was really felt like, oh shit, there's a whole school of thought on how to get dates and how to get relationships, which was a bit kind of icky at some points. But there was that kind of literature. I think the incel movement had not grown that fast at that point. But I did find myself finding some solace in reading that kind of shit. Because it felt like, oh, there's a way out of this bleakness. So that was my experience. You've been a Casanova all your life,
my whole life, I can't help it.
Whole life. Just the gift of the gap.
No lah. Absolutely. There are similar experiences, having gone to the same schools and everything, boys' schools and all these things. And there is, you can totally understand why these men who feel rejected by women or not able to date women, why they feel this way. Like last time, I think 15 years ago, it was about improving your game and, catching up with the people who knew how the system worked already, right? Whereas the incel movement is a game of negativity, right? About rather than trying to catch up with the game, is to reject the game entirely as rigged, call it out, red pill yourself, meaning like the Matrix, where you took the red pill and then you understand the reality of how life is actually. That's the concept, where you basically you blame women, right, for, and say feminism movement for why things are like that now, right? But there are things in the incel movement that even when you read it now, with the understanding that you get where they're coming from, there's stuff in there that is a bit strange, right? That you wouldn't say is the right way to approach things.
Yeah, I mean, that one statement the guy said his financial situation is involuntary.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that life is not fair. Everybody's dealt with a different deck of cards. I would say, skin color, height, that one is involuntary. But financial situation, I do believe that you have some agency, right? So I was surprising to see that sentiment. And then I think there's a lot of hate and kind of shitting on women or society, which feels like, wow, even objectively, right, no matter what you're feeling, this one, it just sounds very dangerous. It sounds very dark. It sounds very morbid. It sounds very destructive. But I mean, I think now, people are more comfortable finding communities online, right? And this might be the darker side of, DEI. And I say that, because, the one narrative that I also get annoyed by sometimes is if you are born as a minority, your life is fucked. Don't even try because it's against you.
Yeah, the game is against you.
Yeah, which, I mean, yes, there are some disadvantages if you are a minority.
Yeah.
But if you go in with that belief, it's very toxic. And maybe last time you might have that sentiment, but when you're with friends or when there wasn't the ease of finding communities that reinforce that, right? You're kind of forced to, okay, maybe open your mind to other things.
Yeah.
But now, if you're having that sentiment that the game is rigged towards males who can't find dates, it's very easy to find these communities online. And that's where it gets a little dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's why I actually kind of appreciated this article because it put forth very clearly how some of the almost like counter, I wouldn't say counterintuitive, right? But almost contradictory kind of opinions that incels have about women and the world, right? They incels. I think one of the academics that were interviewed for this that say that incels believe they're entitled to sexual and romantic relationships with women, and that women are valued only for serving these needs. However, incels believe that due to their physical appearance and low social status, their fate is that they will never be successful with women, right? So basically what you have is a bunch of, angry men coming together and just commiserating about how the system is rigged against them and there's no hope for them, right? And they'll never be like one of the chads, right? Those, basically they think that those people who get the women are the chads, and if you're anything but a chad, you have to settle for women who's like a 4 or 3 or 4 out of 10. You will never get the 8 or 9s, right?
Yeah.
And but so it's a very, they almost, you think that they are misogynistic in the way that they value women only for their physical appearance, but actually they become very self-judgmental about their own physical appearance to a point where I think, it affects self-esteem, and it's a downward spiral because they just keep encouraging each other to think like that in the forums and things. And I have gone on some of these forums and really read the things that say they have a very clear certain language that they use about things like chats, Stacy's,
Becky's,
alphas, betas, and things like that, right? That makes you feel part of an in-group. You understand the reality of the world, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it's just a bunch of people like slowly spiraling into a darker and darker place,
Yeah.
And people who don't want that, they leave. They even if they try to argue with other people on the forum, over time it's just very draining, and they'll leave, right? Which means that the people left are even more and more in the echo chamber, right? So it's quite a difficult thing to climb out of if you start really getting into the literature of what being an incel is.
And I mean, I think it's important to understand the context you just shared, because it's very easy to be like, oh, these incels, right, are fucked up.
Yeah.
What kind of fuck, they deserve to rot. Because I see that on Reddit also, like, they deserve to rot and all. But I think, just like how I said that during my bleak dating times, I found myself gravitating to these communities that thankfully were not as toxic and all. It's almost like a downward spiral where the only thing involuntary is not the looks, it's not the financial situation, it's the spiraling downwards. And I think that is something that is it's very easy to spiral downwards. Especially with the ease of finding communities like this online. The fact that, if you're feeling shit, misery loves company. Right?
Correct.
On a day-to-day basis, everybody has a proclivation to gossip once in a while. Right? Because it's nice to, shit on other people. But you combine all that, right, it's almost a suction force that pulls people down and then makes them like toxic. But it feels more sad, if anything, that these people are falling down that path.
So how did you, as like self-proclaimed almost incel at one point in your life,
fuck you okay?
Or not?
No, I'm just saying that I was like looking for an answer.
Okay.
I was looking for
someone who was seeking validation about your feelings. Why can't I get?
Okay, I wasn't that chalak.
Okay. That's fine. We can both agree that we were not at the top of the pile.
Correct. Not at the top.
We were not the guys who were dating the prom queens or anything. For sure. Nowhere near. Even just smelling their perfume was like as close as I got.
Okay, now don't sound like a creep.
Creepy. I mean, they wear perfume. What's like you walk past, you smell it.
Yeah.
But we were both were never there, right?
Yeah.
But somewhere in your late 20s and early 30s, you also at the same time became like Singapore's maybe number one pickup artist, right? Officially, it's on record. We have video evidence, right? For those who don't know, like if you go back to our Ministry of Funny,
that's high praise, Terence.
Go back to our Ministry of Funny YouTube channel. Go to our earliest, like most popular early videos, like maybe from 2013, 2014 thereabouts. You'll see that Harish was in his full
element,
in his element, right? Being Singapore's number one pickup artist, in the vein of like simple pickup and everything.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of content we created like back then, right?
That got us big in the first place.
So what led you, to get out of that death spiral into becoming like, a pickup artist?
So I mean, to counter that, right? Like, yes, we did pickup videos, but it wasn't the smooth kind of pickup. It was almost make such a fool of myself that there's something that clicked that I ended up getting numbers from girls on the street. I would say the one thing that made that possible is we needed to make a video. I knew that making a bigger fool of myself would have a higher chance of being funny. And the intention, I had no expectations to ever get numbers. But it was almost the circumstance forced me to just, how you say, find something that, I don't know, kind of resonated. So I would say that was purely luck. But I would say even before that, just having friends, maybe difficulty in finding the more toxic communities. And I mean, I won't deny that certain books I read, like The Game, The System, they were quite eye-opening. The good thing is they were never like, let's kill women, it's all women's fault. It's more like how you can understand general social dynamics and understand that social interactions between males and females are different because everybody grew up with different experiences given their gender. So I guess a combination of many things.
I would say one thing, right, that is that when you think about like the lie flat movement, in China, where people sort of like give up on, pursuing material wealth or anything because it's just too hard and it's the system is rigged against you. You can think about the incel thing as like a lie flat response to dating, right? Where I can't get a date, rather than thinking like, how do I improve myself or my self-esteem or go and work out and look better and feel better, as such, be more confident. It's the opposite. It's like just thinking that you'll never get a date because of the stuff you were born with, because the system is rigged against you. And so rather than, spend time trying to so-called improve yourself, just go and commiserate with all the other losers who are in the same boat as you, right? And that just sounds so tragic as it is, right? That's why I'm like, and you can't just dismiss it as like it's this online thing where young men are just like, but there are literally people who self-identify as incels and carry out terrorist attacks. So it is quite a scary thing.
And I mean, if everybody thinks that what you're saying is like, that's impossible, you just ask yourself, there are probably some people that once in a while you hang out with, where after you meet up with them, you just feel sad.
They're just complaining about everything.
You just feel like depressed. But I mean, you still have that maybe friendship with them from a long time. And at the other flip side, there are people you meet who you leave, you're like, hey, shit, anything is possible, So if you imagine the people who drain you and a community of that sucks you in, it can happen to a lot of people. I think it can happen to a lot of people.
So I mean, so actually we haven't even talked about the idea of national service.
That's true.
That this article seems to allege that incels are the ones who rant about it, right? What do you think of that association?
I mean, that was a bit of a stretch, because as a guy who's done NS and seen my female peers all start work early, of course there is a sentiment that, should women also serve NS? Should NS be shorter? Does that make me an incel? Some more I listen to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan plus Jordan Peterson.
Sometimes.
Plus I'm fucking hardcore incel already. Which I feel is a bit of a stretch.
Because I think, the whole NS discussion, I think that's more of a policy discussion, right? And just because you disagree with certain elements of policy doesn't necessarily make you an incel, right? That, and in fact, even Aware, the women's organization, advocates for women to do NS, right? But these ideas don't seem to hold water when seriously discussing policy about NS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where some of the anger online is coming from, that just because I have certain views about national service doesn't mean that I'm an incel, right? Whereas this article seems to correlate the two, correlate causation, right? Correlate that if you are talking about NS as if you are ranting about national service and the fact that women don't have to do national service means that you're likely to be an incel hanging out in Singapore raw.
Yeah, exactly.
Which pisses people off because in fact, it might push people towards like being even angrier with the system, right?
Yeah.
Because, now you're labeling me as an incel just because I have disagreements about how national service is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I felt that, not very productive. It's counterproductive life. That's what they're trying to have a debate about.
But maybe it's also that, the first part, let's make it clickbaity and like triggering. So you rope people in and then you read the second part, which is eye-opening.
But that's it. I would say, when you read Singapore Raw, generally there's a lot of criticism of national service, right? The thing is, I've never equated it directly to that this person must be an incel, right? I can imagine even a man who has a family and kids and everything could also have these thoughts about national service, and it's not a having a debate about it doesn't make you an incel.
Yeah,
I think like there are very clear, say for example, expecting that our NS men should be paid more while they're serving national service, right? Let's bring them in line with like what Taiwanese conscripts are being paid, right? Which is significantly more, right? So I think these are matters of policy and not so much about that they're incels, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still worth the read. I'm glad they didn't put it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's worth the read and worth kind of the understanding that there are sentiments like that. There are movements out there. And yes, it's very easy to vilify people from that movement. But I think just thinking about the broader reasons that led them there, right?
Yeah.
Is important.
So what is your parting tip to people who want to get out that death spiral of being an incel into, not necessarily being an accomplished pickup artist, but to get to a point where they're, happier in life and able to date happily,
That one, I don't know. I'm whether the best place to even suggest that. I mean, I think just like just have try to surround yourself with people, with good people who provide other opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, exercise.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a life coach there, which I don't want to claim that I have everything figured out.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, I will add to that, like, just get offline and get out of your comfort zone a bit, right?
Maybe get out.
Because I think online is very easy to find, groups and then sort of go into this spiral, reading and validating your feelings of being a victim and all that.
Yeah.
But if you just go out there and you don't have to be dating. You can just be out there pursuing a hobby or playing a sport or working out or something, or meeting even other guys or something like that, right? It might help to change your perspective or about things also, right?
Yeah.
I would say don't get too wrapped up in this what's being said online.
Yeah, and maybe realize that it might make sense to you. It might make you feel better in the short term, but it's like eating unhealthy food, It might feel good in the short term, but just take a step back and realize, oh shit, maybe there's another way to another thing to eat, Another thing to eat,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, man,
you heard it from the man
Shut
himself.
Up, but we'll put links to those videos.
Hey, I was also there,
fun.
man. I was even creepier, right? I'm like hiding there with a camera behind a pillar
and listening to the conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't make me even more creepy that way, right?
True, At least I can say, I got numbers,
Yeah.
Terrence, what you were watching.
I was watching.
You were
and like just hiding behind the corner, being gleefully listening.
Give me the thumbs up after
Yeah.
that. Oh man, good times, man. Good times.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
But yes,
Cool.
It's been a while since we talked about this, but what is your one Shiok comment?
Yeah. So I mean, it's from the episode 618. Israel's home detention sparks debate and Coldplay's music video. I mean, just like I guess. I think like available _@9766 on Reddit kind of pointed out that yeah lah, like whether or not Ishwaran's home detention is something that the public agrees with. There'll probably be some impact during the elections lah. There'll probably be some questions, and the perception of PAP lah, and whether or not that's been affected lah. I think it's hard to say because I know some people really don't see problem with it. Some people do. But good to know that people are thinking about it in the context of elections also lah. Because you can't run away from it. Yeah. What about you, man?
Mine was the comments on the last episode 619 about fatherhood, where we took the trishaw and we talked about it. From on Reddit, Singaporeans say, I really wanted to love this episode because I'm a father of kids myself, right? But I do feel the episode was a bit overly rosy in its assessment and outlook of the state of parenting in Singapore. It is a sponsored episode, right? Fine. But the main thing which wasn't quite sufficiently covered is the struggle against the hegemony of, but fathers need to do what? And you need to leave work early again? There is the double whammy of expectations against modern dads, which is one, the expectation that you need to contribute more than the fathers of previous generations, but two, the pressure that fathers tend to face in traditional work settings where dads are supposed to be first and foremost breadwinners. How do we navigate these waters? A compromise generally needs to be made, and who can help you decide? It turns out nobody but you can make the choice. We admittedly, this is something people, I think a lot of modern parents think about, right? And maybe we didn't have the time to also talk about that in the episode for sure, right? But maybe as we move on in this journey of fatherhood, also
we do need to start a fatherhood podcast.
I think so. Yeah.
Fatherhood podcast.
Like former incels turn now today happy dads kind of thing.
Almost incels turn happy dads. That's the name of the podcast lah. From incel to dad.
Incel to dad.
Wow, fuck man. But and what about your one Shiok thing, man?
My one Shiok thing.
You want me to?
You can go first.
So, there was a podcast that a YouTube video that I recently came across that is from a channel that I never knew existed. There was this interview with the NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang by someone called Cleo Abram, which I bookmarked. I haven't watched it yet. But when I went to a channel, right, I was like, oh shit, she has 5.19 million subscribers. And I was like, who is this person? So she used to be a video producer at Vox.
Okay.
And she was a director for Explained on Netflix, which I think was a Vox show. And then she just wanted to start a YouTube channel that showcases the optimistic side of tech. So what she calls is like video journalists making optimistic tech explainers. And the channel is called Huge. The podcast is called Huge If True. So I was like, oh shit. Actually, the videos are very engaging because she does like what dinosaurs were really like. And why the Olympics almost banned this shoe. So those sort of explainer videos, but very engaging. And then you realize, actually Vox has always made great content and talented people like her have branched out to do something on their own. Then I was like, hey, that's cool. And I mean, she has access to people like Marcus Brownlee from MKPhD, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, Boston Dynamics. I guess being a tech journalist gives you those leads. So quite interesting. Interesting. Cleo Abram.
Okay.
What about you, man?
Mine was actually it's a very Singapore thing. But shout out to Danielle Tan, who's playing Singapore's probably best female football player now. She's playing for Brisbane Roar in Australia. So I've been trying to follow her career in at least her stint in Brisbane, right? She joined the club, then unfortunately she got injured for the first couple of months of the season. Recently she made a comeback, to the squad. But admittedly, when I try to watch the matches and the highlights, I don't see her being selected very often, whether it's in the first team or the substitutes team. But in the most recent match that they had, she actually scored a goal in the 93rd minute in a match where she supposedly scored the winner, right, in the 93rd minute. And it was quite a nice goal in the sense that, it was a ball was floated in and then she headed it over the keeper and all. So I was happy for her, but then ultimately that goal was ruled offside. Subsequently. So But it was just nice to actually finally see her playing in an actual game and, coming close to scoring a goal in quite a, it's not the typical just hope for the goalkeeper to make a mistake kind of thing. It was a very positive attack, right?
Oh, but that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm glad. I hope she gets more playing time after this.
Because she's still very young, right?
She's like 20 or 21 or something. Yeah.
Oh, solid.
So it gives us something, at least like other leagues to watch also, besides just like EPL.
And you see the highlights on YouTube, is it?
They stream every match on YouTube because I think the A leagues, the women's championship, they stream everything. Yeah.
I see.
So yeah, go check out the highlights for this game.
Oh, cool, man. But yeah, that's all for today. Definitely going to be an exciting few weeks.
Yeah.
Remember our live show on March 6th. Tickets will be going live in the coming days. We will update on this podcast and on our social media. So remember to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you want to work with us, what should they do, Terrence?
Go to ministryoffunny.com or email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all soon.